Hey, boys and girls, Doug Giles here. It's Warriors, Rich,
and Wildmen. What's happening, Doug?
I'm happening, you're happening. Cigars and Sermons are happening in Austin, Texas. People, if you're here, if you're taking a vacation, or if you live in the hood, come see us. It's in Wimberley, Texas. Easy to find. Rich, your church, Yuma, everybody knows where it's at. Mesa. What's the website for your church if people want to rock up?
DestinyChristianChurch.com.
Beautiful. All right, so we got Matt Taylor. Matt Taylor, we're going to do a little redo. What is this show about, Rich? Inform the Warriors and Wildmen.
Well, Matt Taylor is the director of a documentary called The Creepy Line, and you can watch that on Amazon Prime. We recorded this a couple years ago, and there will be a few dated references, but man, we're seeing that these things are coming to pass even more, because what it is talking about how big tech, Google in particular, spies on you, watches you, collects data and information on you, and then with the things that are happening now in the current news with Tucker and the
NSA,
and the triple letter agencies spying on conservatives. This is an important podcast. You need to check it out. It's worth listening to again. So go ahead and enjoy this.
Hey guys, Doug Giles here, little Warriors and Wildmen action. Rich, how you doing, big dog?
What's happening, Doug?
I'll tell you what's happening. We've got filmmaker, director Matt Taylor. He is part and parcel of the epic film that I had the displeasure of watching the other night. It's called Rich, The Creepy Line. Why don't you welcome Matt to the Warriors and Wildmen podcast?
Matt, welcome to Warriors and Wildmen, and we're excited to talk to you about well, I don't know how excited I am, because like Doug, I watched Creepy Line and I was disturbed, disgusted, and but we're glad to have you on here because we want you to fill us in on what's going on.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here, and if that's the reaction, then I think the film worked.
Oh, it worked.
You know, what's funny is that I think I watched it around Halloween, and everybody's like, hey, Jamie Lee Curtis got a new Halloween flick out. It's crushing at the box office. I said, listen, if you want to watch some scary shit, you watch The Creepy Line. That's more scary than anything Michael Myers or Jamie Lee Curtis or Wes Craven or any of the other horror genre filmmakers could ever produce. That movie, and again, I've been on the receiving end of Facebook's negative sanctions and Google's chastisement. So I get it, and they collapsed, Matt. I don't know if you follow any of the stuff that I do, but I've been running ClashDaily.com for nearly 7 years now. We had 2 million people on our Facebook page, man. Spent $250,000 to build that bad boy up over the last 5 or 6 years. And then without explanation, without warning, poof, you're gone. No appeal, nothing. And so, look, I get it. I don't know, Matt, that a lot of people out there, in middle America, just minding their own damn business, going to Facebook to show pictures of their cat and their baby. I don't know if they understand that they're dealing with a major spy agency that's trying to shape America into this Coca-Cola commercial where the socialists are driving the magic bus.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think the thing is most people don't understand that these are surveillance platforms. Something like Gmail is a surveillance platform, and that's 40%, I think, of email users in the world are Gmail, Google Maps, Android, Facebook. I mean, all of these things are designed specifically to spy on you. And the thing is, the film only touches the surface. The reach of these companies is so vast, and the news changes so every day, sometimes hourly, that it's hard to even keep up with how many bad things these people do.
Wow. Matt, when I was watching Creepy Line, I learned a lot of things. I'm not saying I knew those things, but it's kind of like it was like the Matrix. It's like I kind of knew those things were going on in the back of my mind, and I think I just pushed it off to the side and tried to pretend like it wasn't happening or it wasn't that big of a deal. And as I was watching it, it was confirming the things that I kind of feared that was there. It doesn't make sense that they have access to all these things and they're not using it. Does that make sense? Like, I watched it and it was like everything that you feared, it's happening.
Well, absolutely. I mean, look, we're not saying the products don't work. The products work. I mean, they work so well, in fact, that we have basically opted in to our own kind of subjugation.
Yeah.
You know, and so the thing is like once
Same.
you get on board, you know, look, if I told people, hey, you can't use Gmail anymore, they'd say, oh, my whole business rests on Gmail.
That's right.
My whole entire business, if it's not on page 1 of Google, my business doesn't exist. So we have crossed this line of trading away a intimate parts of our soul, essentially, for utilities, and the cost is immeasurable. People have no idea what they gave up when they signed on to Gmail. And look, we all did it. We opted in. That's Google and Facebook's excuse. Look, you took the free stuff.
Yeah.
So you got to pay the price. And here's the thing. Is it hard to disagree that the products work? They do work. We had to use Google search to make this movie. So there's no way to get away from some of these tools. We did it. We did this to ourselves, and now we have to reverse that flow. And it's going to be very, very hard for a lot of people.
So, Matt, have you and Peter and Epstein, have you guys bailed off Facebook personally, or your companies? Have you, when Facebook deplatformed us, and again, the reason's completely specious. They're like, oh, you're putting out false information. Brother, we have published probably 60,000 pieces since 2012. We're one of the top conservative sites in America, and that's not just me saying that. I mean, it's by the numbers. With 250 million page views, and of all that publication, we published 4 things that we didn't really get the facts right. We jumped the gun. We made corrections, and it's complete and utter nonsense that we put out fake stories. And what else do they say? Oh, you have fake accounts. No, we don't. We have to do double verify, where they send a frickin' 6-number text to our cell phone, and then we can log in. And because I'm a personality out there in America, whatever, I have to have a blue check verified on my Facebook account. And then they said fake account, fake users, fake news, no appeal. And when they did that, man, they said, well, listen, you can come back on, but you just can't do this anymore. And I was like, blank you. I've had it with Facebook. I'm done. Have you guys crossed the Rubicon as far as I have in regards to ever using their product again?
Well, it's interesting because, Epstein, obviously, who's the backbone of the film, doesn't use these things anyway. Since he was kicked off the platform for who knows what, and me personally.
Oh, and by the way, also Matt, Epstein's not this right wing, conservative who's like a bad shopping cart. Anywhere you push him, he's going to turn to the right, right?
No, he is a science-based. More liberal leaning individual. In fact, this is not a partisan film. I mean, we have Democrats, we have Republicans in the film. We have people who just really aren't affiliated with any political. This is not political, because here's the deal. I mean, and this is what people on both sides have to understand. With a company like Google or Facebook, they are undermining democracy. And if they choose one side or the other, it doesn't matter if you're left or right. They could choose Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. They can choose anybody they want. And if you're on the other side of that debate, you're out, left or right.
That's right.
Because look, a ton of people are censored who are left leaning. The Democratic Socialists are censored. There's LGBTQ people who are censored or demonetized. So everybody is party to the whims of these companies at any given time. I do think that conservatives are more vocal when it comes to the demonetization or the censorship. I do think that they tend to be more censored. But the thing is, nobody, not a single person who uses these platforms is not susceptible to being censored, to being banned, to being demonetized, and being ultimately erased from existence. Rich?
Wow. Yeah, that kind of stumped me for a second.
Here's something that blows me away, Matt and Rich, is that Zuckerberg, Sandberg, the twits that run Twitter, and the goons that run Google, they all posit themselves liberals. Okay, I mean, it's Silicon
Mhm.
Valley. They're all liberals. And Matt, I don't know how old you are. I'm 56 years old, and I remember back in my day where liberals were open to debate, discussion. They were tolerant. They loved true diversity. Hey, if you're a snake handling Tennessee, three teeth and IQ of 50 clunk, we want to hear from you. And if you are this Stalinist, red book, Mao Zedong, droogie that just loves red and communism, we want to hear from you too. Now the liberals nowadays, they pretty much don't want to hear from whomever happens to not be in their little Silicon enclave. When did liberalism become such a fetid, pussified little group of nabobs that can't have radical, I'm talking fundamental, robust debate? Because that's not how they were, man, when I was in college.
Well, I think in the context of these companies, there's something unique that's happening here, right? Because a lot of people ask me, like, oh, there are more Democrats and liberals in Facebook and Google than not, right? And we say, okay, yes. But here's the thing. No one asked that question about Microsoft. And we all know that most people who work at Apple are liberals, but it doesn't change the context of how we use their products. And this is kind of the big thing that really matters, because Facebook and Google are information sector companies. See, Apple can have a whole host of people who disagree or don't like things working, but they still have to sell a product to guess who?
Yep.
To us.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't like the iPhone. I don't buy it. Look, they're going to sell iPhones to liberals. They're going to sell them to Republicans. They're going to sell them. But here's the thing. In Facebook and Google, we are the product.
That's right.
Right. So this is a very different thing. I mean, we don't ask how many Democrats work at Honda. We don't ask. Nobody cares.
Yeah, because
right?
Honda's not doesn't have the ability to decide who's getting elected.
Exactly. And so this is I think it's very important to separate the kind of companies these are. And since these companies control the ebb and flow of information, I think that the other thing is that, going back to the argument of liberal, because again, look, if everybody at Apple votes for Democrat, they're right. That's great. That's America, but it still doesn't affect the ebb and flow of information. So I think ultimately we have to first make that discernment. And then second of all, what you have two companies, Google and Facebook, who are different, I think, than the classical liberal you're talking about, because they are utopians, right? And so most liberals and Democrats and Republicans, it's always equal debate, right? We're all arguing about this or that. You should believe in this or this healthcare plan or whatever. With these people, they have a vision of how the world should be, and they have the power to enact it. That's the difference. So I think that when you have someone like, Sergey Brin and these guys, they say, you know what? I view this point of view as evil, and I have the power to eliminate evil. And here's the thing. If anyone had that power, would they not use it? Would people not use that power to subjugate or destroy things they view as destructive to the culture? So I think it's different than the greedy corporation of the 20th century. It's different than the classic Democrat versus Republican. In some ways, they may not even see themselves as Democrat versus Republican. They see themselves as utopians creating a better world. There is a financial aspect to it, obviously.
Bro, that's
the deal.
That's some
for
scary
me,
shit, man.
Matt, I'm a pastor of a church, and we have a lot of stuff that we do on Facebook. And the interesting thing about that is that when they define evil, and I guess could be anybody. I mean, as a pastor, we use the Bible. It's like, this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is evil. That's it. It's pretty simple. But they don't have any moral absolutes, and it's sliding and adjusting with culture and whatever they think. But hold on, I want to make this point real quick, is that they're deciding that anything that's quote unquote mean is evil. And the problem with that is now we're restricting free speech. And when we start restricting free speech, and they're doing it by one thing that was mentioned on the film, was that they're surrounding you with people who think exactly like you, And they're not
Yes.
exposing you to people who think differently than you so you can understand society and culture. And we're not able to shape and form our culture. We're losing identity as a culture. And I think that's part of the thing that's dividing the country in these two groups, because people think everybody thinks like them. And that's why they're shocked. No one's learning, no one's growing. And they're the ones deciding what's mean. And mean is any absolute truth that disagrees with anyone. And so what happens is everything is tolerance, everything's acceptable, everything's okay. And so nothing becomes wrong.
It's a complicated scenario because they are determining. I mean, look, here's the thing. The big issue, we talked about being censored. If Facebook and Google just came out and said, look, we think this way, this is what we want to believe, I'd say, okay, fine.
Right.
That's great. It's the portrayal as we're a neutral platform.
Exactly.
Where everyone can be. I don't care. Look, they can sit there. If they want to promote communism or whatever, they can do that. But they have to let us know.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
That's something that was on the film that I thought was powerful. One of the things that I was interested in the most is how they worked hard to make sure that people couldn't detect that it was biased. And yes. I'm the 0.1% because I think everything's biased. I don't believe anything anybody says is not biased. But they literally work just as hard, or probably harder, so that people don't believe that it's biased. And that way they get them to swallow it as just news or information instead of propaganda.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, again, it's I think for them it is something that comes a second nature, because it's just what they believe.
Right.
It's just what they believe. And look, here's the thing. I like to say, while I'm criticizing Google and Facebook, I also think that Google and Facebook did a lot of good things in the early days. I mean, Google's ability to bring information to the world is absolutely transformative. It's important. I don't want these companies to be bad, right? I don't want them to be bad. I don't want to be like, Google's bad. I want them to be amazing because they have brought great things to the world. They brought community. I can be friends with people around the world and never see them. I mean, this is really great stuff. But their activities are just something that we can't overlook anymore because honestly, it may be too late. It may be too late to separate ourselves because back in the day, in the late 90s, if I didn't want to be near technology, I could just walk outside. I can't do that. I can't even walk outside. We're about to implement drones in New York for law enforcement, and that's a debate that's up right now. But the thing is, you can't get away. It's too late. You can't just stop you. Even if I never use a Google product, you'll still touch their analytics on websites, and they're still tracking you. And so ultimately, I'm sure we'll get into solutions eventually, but I want to put this out there first. There's no solution except for a fundamental change to their actual business model, right? And until their business model doesn't include collecting our data, there is no solution to this problem.
So speaking of solutions, Matt, on October 11th, when Facebook did their big purge, and going back to something that Rich said and brought up about Facebook and Google, Facebook in particular. Is I believe they're a cult. I believe this is now their religion, and I believe they see cats like us as heretics and apostates to, like you said, their utopian way of life. And but that's aside the point. If you want to comment on that after this question. So October 11th, the hammer falls. 800 different major pages, and again, ours wasn't a small page. 2 million people, man. And we raked it in for many, many moons, making hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars off Facebook. And then all of a sudden, boom, we're gone. And so my other publishers and other people were like, okay, what do we do? Can we sue Facebook? I said, yeah, you can do a lawsuit, maybe some class action. But know this, they get sued every day and they're sitting on billions of dollars. So number two, the antitrust stuff, regulation aspect, and brother, I don't know where you stand. I could hear in Peter's comments and stuff and creepy line. I'm big time a Stosselite. I'm anti-regulation. I think that would be a bad idea to give some frickin' bureaucrat like Orrin Hatch lordship over platforms as bad as Facebook and Google are. But that's just me. I would rather see the market and the conservatives get the Wilks or the Mercers are sitting on billions of dollars to get some coders and do some kind of competitive platform instead of like, oh, we're going to sanction you and we're going to tell you what to do. I'm not into government doing that, man. But help me if I'm wrong, Matt. Help me, buddy.
Yeah, well, and here's an interesting thing. I Google and Facebook, again, this is a perception thing. They make them say, hey, we're a private company. Look at our innovation. But they're like the car versus the train. Right, back in the day, the rail had to build the rails to get the trains to go where they had to go. And when the government came in and built the roads, it made the car industry explode because they didn't have to build the infrastructure, right? So Google was aided by the government. They were given an advantage by the government. The Central Intelligence Agency, most intelligence agencies were interested in what Google was doing. There was investment. There's the DARPA stuff. There's all these things that happened where Google did not just start in a garage, like, say, an Apple. They started with a significant market advantage propped up by the public sector. And a lot of people don't know this. It's a very important thing. So whereas you have these startups kind of coming out of nowhere, Google got a boost. And on top of it, from that boost, they have merged with the federal government on a level that is, and we say it in the film, it is the classic definition of fascism. It's corporatism, and so I think that, it is the regulatory tools that are currently available in no way will work. And the reason they won't work is because they are designed for 20th century companies. They are designed for Apple. They're designed for Microsoft. They're designed for Standard Oil, to bring up a really old one. These are brand new types of entities that there is no regulatory recourse for because no one's ever thought about it.
So Matt, when you and Peter and Dr. Epstein and other folks are mulling around how to regulate, and the 20th century models don't work, what have you guys come up with? Anything put forth from the think tank or something that can put a stick in Google's wheel?
Well, everybody in film has a different opinion on what to do, and it's actually Stossel actually did a review of the film yesterday, and this question came up about, what do you do?
Right. That's the question. Course, what do you do?
Yeah. What do you do? And so, look, I mean, you look at over in the EU, and it was a GRPD, the EU slaps that out. And now here's the deal. That's a regulation, right? To sit there and hurt Google. But guess who has the money and the manpower to do the paperwork? Google. So Google's great. Everyone below them who's smaller doesn't have the manpower or the money, and they go out of business. And so in weird ways, these regulations can really help Google because remember, they're the largest lobbying faction on the Hill. They're integrated with the government. So anything that gets written, and they're donating to campaigns, they're donating to organizations, left and right, by the way. We've had just as much issues with right-leaning think tanks and organizations with our film as, probably more actually than
Matt, who are those? We got a pretty good distribution, and I'm well known in those circles. Let's kick some nutsacks. Who are the ones that?
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Come on, man! Come on, man!
No, not.
Come on! It's Warriors. It's Warriors and Wildmen podcast. Come on, your next movie will be gold.
I'm gonna let everybody have the opportunity to.
Let me. I'll put something out there. I don't know if you know it or not, but my oldest daughter Hannah, she came up with the sting, and she played the prostitute in the infamous. Acorn videos, which showed Acorn, Obama's claim to fame, giving home loans for whorehouses for underage sex slaves from El Salvador. And she was doing, and it saved us 8.5 billion drachmas, buddy. And speaking about Facebook, when Hannah did this, all my messages were immediately captured by Facebook in 2009. When Facebook and CNN and the liberal media came to slaughter the family because they couldn't handle the counter narrative that Hannah and Breitbart and O'Keefe were putting out there.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, that's an aside. Here's the interesting thing about the conservative enemies coming against Hannah. She had people that worked with the Heritage Foundation, other people that worked with Young Americas for Freedom, told her don't do it, it'll ruin your career. Some of them raised millions of dollars off Hannah's defense, and they didn't see a flipping dime, man. And that's not the evil, you know, Mark Zuckerberg. That's not the wicked Google or YouTube. That's frickin' friendlies that did that shit to our family, did it to the conservative movement, did it to Hannah. And yeah, it's not all just left versus right. There's corruption,
not at all,
and
not at all.
Creepy line creepiness.
No, look, I mean,
both sides of the aisle, man.
I encourage people, like, go look who gave Google gave money to. Go look at public records, see who they pump money into, and I guarantee you, it's going to be a lot of people that people support. You know, and again, I think this is how Google works, right? They have put all this money into everything, and this is an important point. People don't realize where they exist, right? New York Times sits on Google servers. Parts of the Pentagon sit on Google servers. I mean, parts of our government, you saw it in the film. They use Google Docs. They use Gmail. They use these things. They're all being monitored. They're monitoring the government. They fully fused. And if they don't like you, you know, and I think this is when people go, oh, well, the government will step in and do something. The government, first of all, can't do anything because they're inefficient by design, which is good because that's how the founding fathers designed them. So they can't make insane decisions rapidly. And these companies are essentially governments that have no accountability to the people, who are not inefficient. Right? They have all the strengths of a government and none of the weaknesses and none of the shackles and none of the accountability. And so the federal government can try. They can sit there and drag these guys in front of Senate. I mean, look, Google didn't even, or was it, I guess Zuckerberg didn't even show up, you know, in some of these things. That. They don't care. This is a big thing. They don't care about American laws, borders. They don't care about other countries. They don't care about anything. They care about what they care about. And the problem is we don't know what they care about, and we don't know how they're using our information. And so, you know, you can say, oh, let's turn them into a public utility. This probably, you know, that's, I think, Epstein's perspective. You have other people who say, you know, let's break them up. Can you imagine breaking Google up if Android is running the GPS in your car, if they're running servers all over the world, if they're sharing? Can you imagine what it would do to the economy, the pieces that people don't realize, the infrastructure that's there that runs literally millions of businesses? It would be disastrous. So the government is just not equipped. They don't have the tools. They can slap them with antitrust, and they'll just pay the money.
It's too embedded. They're too big, and it's too embedded.
It's too much. Yeah, I mean, they are integrated.
Well,
they are the government.
Well, I have a question. I think a lot of people that are listening right now, they're going to have a question, and the question is going to be, what do I do? What can I do? And I this morning I was texting with a guy. I have a lot of friends that are involved in special forces and different things and clandestine, all those kind of guys. Anyway, I said, have you heard of the documentary Creepy Line? It's about Google and Facebook spying and manipulating people for financial and political gain. I said, it's freaking crazy. And I said, got to get rid of all your Gmail accounts, any Android. That's my initial small-minded thinking, right? And I said, any Google products, Google Maps, and he texts back right away and said, you can't. I already know about. No. Listen what he says. You probably know this. He said, I already know about all this. We also use their data.
Yeah.
And I said, yeah, but you can definitely limit what they have access to. He says Google has its mapping in many apps. When you turn off Google, remove Gmail, your stuff stops working. It's crazy, brother. I tried to do it for a year using this. It's too late.
It's nearly impossible. I mean, look, you cannot use Gmail. You cannot use Android, you know. But again, even Tim Cook came out and said, hey, look, we got to use Google search and Safari. It's embedded in your phone. You got to. I mean, you could try to use Bing, but guess what? Bing or Microsoft signed a deal with Google a couple of years ago and called off all the lawsuits, and then Bing got better.
Of course they did.
You know, of course they did. You know, you could try to use Yahoo, but they reference Google's quarantine list. You know, I mean, look, at the end of the day, you know, everything you can do to protect yourself is important. So don't use Gmail. Don't use Android. Don't post your kids' photos on freaking Facebook. For God's sake.
I just did that yesterday for my son's 16th birthday. You're a little late on that one, bro. A little late.
No, hey, look, everybody did it. We all did it. No, nobody is without blame in the entire world, because why would you be? Why would you be? It was awesome. It was too good to be true.
Wow.
You know, it's like when Steve Jobs walked out on stage in 2007 and held up the iPhone, and we all said, well, that can't be real. That looks like something out of Star Trek. But it was real. And it changed the world I believe, in a positive direction. And so these tools, they're like magic. They work. And so, you know, we all were caught off guard. And now we have to pay up. And that price is our freedom. It's the freedom of speech. It's the freedom to move around the world. It's the freedom to live where you want to live and not be harassed. It's your actual fundamental freedoms that they are removing.
Hey, man, what about MeWe, man? When Facebook and I had a formal divorce, we were looking for love in other places, and I can't even remember the various platforms that were out there. But one thing that I liked about MeWe is it seemed like it was like Facebook, you know, back in 2007, 2008, very Wild West, all kinds of shit flying. I mean, it used to be, I don't know if you remember Facebook, and it was like a mosh pit. It was Thunderdome. Everybody's on crack. Memes are going crazy. Diatribes going back and forth. And, you know, MeWe's got serious privacy bill of rights, but I don't know if that's going to be, you know, I don't know if that's going to be burned up, you know, 10 years from now when they're doing all their data mining and creeping on us. I mean, it seems pretty good now, though, but, you know.
We are in a scenario where Google can they do buy 2 companies a week, you know, and so, like, people could jump to other platforms, but there comes a point where, like, in order to compete, you're going to need the information that Google has. Remember, they've set the standards for how everything works, right? One of the interesting things, for example, a place where a lot of your data is collected is weather apps, right? No one thinks about this, right? You can get a weather app, you look at the weather, and what do? You have to sign on to your location. And so basically, when you sign on to some of these weather apps, they sit there and they go, hey, you're right here. This is what you're doing. Da-da-da-da-da, right? And so there's a lot of data collection through apps that people had no idea. And so I think that, like, we're in a scenario where just jumping to another platform doesn't mean it's not sitting on something built by, say, a Google or Facebook. You know, you go to other countries like Myanmar or the Philippines, the internet is Facebook. They don't even have internet. They just have Facebook. That's what they have. And so you have all these scenarios where people are like, oh, I'm away, I'm off the platform, but you're not off the platform. You know, so Google has managed to integrate into so many things. Wow. And again, it's going to have to be, you know, we don't give them the information. Remember, we're the gas that makes our engine run. And so the more information we give them, the more they can do. And the less information we give them, the less they could do. And so it's going to have to start. What can you do on your daily basis? You can avoid their products as much as possible. You can't avoid search. You can't avoid looking at certain websites that have Google Analytics, which is, I think, 90% or something along those lines. But you can reduce, you cannot use Android, which gives them all sorts of information, because the iPhone doesn't do that if you set it right. And so there are other alternatives to begin the process. But ultimately, we're going to have to really, I mean, look, you know, nobody likes government regulation and nobody likes these things. There is a certain extent where, in some instances, only some people on the Hill are going to be able to do some of the bigger movements but again, they're going to have to rethink the business model. I mean, until they are not collecting our data to make money, there's no solution.
Yeah. Hey, Rich, we got to wrap this. You got a quick question for Matt before we say adios?
Matt, what are you doing personally about all this? I'm not talking about like with the film and making sure people know. What do you do personally with your devices and the platforms that you use?
Well, you know, I just don't post stuff. You know, I mean, look, I've always been one to not post much anyway. right? Because like once it's there, it's, I think that, and that's a generational thing too. I'm the end of Generation X. We don't trust anybody. We're the Nirvana generation. We're the losers. And we're not millennials. So when someone comes up and goes, "Hey, here's a free something," I go, "I don't know about that." And so I got a Gmail, but I didn't use it. It's funny. I used Hotmail for years. Everyone made fun of me, but Microsoft's better. They're better at being secure with data and so on and so forth. So I just never really engaged in it. I love technology, so I'm really interested in how it all works. But I just never gave up my personal life, to showboat. It's. I think that's part of it. Showboating. People showboat, and that's how they want the fame, they want the clicks, they want the dopamine to see the likes. My one weakness is Instagram. I love Instagram, so yeah. I have to admit that. I love Instagram, and it hurts my feelings that Facebook owns Instagram. So
yeah, I'm with you on that one, brother. Hey, 30 seconds, Matt. Why should the Warriors and Wildmen subscriber go to Amazon Prime, click their mouse, melt their plastic, and watch the creepy line?
They will be shown something that will open their eyes, and so that they can start thinking about how to protect themselves from these companies exploiting their data and taking away their freedoms. That's why you watch on Amazon.
Matt Taylor, The Creepy Line. Great stuff, Matt. Again, scary as hell. Thank you for putting out the movie. And
my pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for being on Warriors and Wildmen.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
You too.
Hey, Rich, that's some scary shit, brother. Again, forget Halloween, forget Saw 1 through 4, forget Rosie O'Donnell dancing in Borat's thong. The Creepy Line is the scariest of them all.
Doug, I was talking to Annie the other day, and I said, I don't like the way our culture's going. I don't like the way our country's going. I don't like the way the society's going. I don't like the way the church in America's going. And I definitely don't like the way technology's going. There's no freedom of speech. They're taking away our guns. Things are getting crazy. And I told her, I said, I'm ready to go off the grid, unplug all my stuff, and live in the freaking mountains. And if you want me to be an outlaw, come and freaking get me, baby. Come and freaking get me, because it ain't going to be my iPhone I'm throwing at you. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be 556, and it's going to be moving out. Because I'm done with this garbage, dude. You know what?
I'd
rather go down swinging, baby. I'd rather go down swinging. I don't even care.
Have you seen the bald-headed cat on Fox News? I think he's got a show on Saturday or Sunday. Steve Hilton. I think it's Hilton. I don't know. I know his first name's Stephen, Stefan, something like that. But dude, he's been off the grid as far as tech goes and smartphones and stuff since the early 2000s. When he started putting two and two together about what Facebook, Google, and YouTube were doing via his smartphone, he's like, you know what? I'm going to stick with the flip phone. So he's got the whole, unuser friendly text buttons. We used to have to click like 4 or 5 times to find the U or the V. And he said, look, I'm fine. And Martha McCallum's like, well, how do you live? How do you get along? He goes, look, when I come home, he said, anybody that I need to deal with has my phone number, and we usually just talk on the phone. How weird is that?
Yep.
He said, and he goes, I got an email account. Anybody that I need to get a hold of, they can send me a frickin' email. And I don't use a Google email address or any of their subsidiaries or, this stuff that Matt was talking about. And he's doing it. And he's got a pretty lucrative gig on Fox. You can survive, people. Imagine that. When we got kicked off Facebook, we saw a little dip in our traffic, man, but nothing major because, again, we weren't, wholly dependent. People, you will live if you if you don't use these platforms. You're not going to. Well, you're not going to become irrelevant.
Doug, this younger generation, you take a phone away from them, they might die. It's a part of their system. It's the grossest thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
I love it when you go to restaurants and or holidays and all the cousins and aunts and uncles are sitting in this circle with everybody's face down into the phone. And I just walk outside and I start smoking a cigar because it's just like, why the hell are we even here? Let's find grandma and let's go out and talk to her about the good old days, about the future, about kicking, bad guys' asses. Everybody in the in-between zone, they're texting each other, and some of them are texting the person right next to them.
Yep.
And it's like, it's just bizarro land. And I'm going to try to make certain that my grandkids, as much as I can, steer clear of that horse shit. And I think, one of the things that I regret about Facebook is putting so much out there publicly. So much.
Me too.
Here's my wife. Here's my children. Here's where we live.
Here's me on vacation.
I like this one. Here's where I am right effing now.
Hey, I started posting my
burglar.
stuff. Yep. I started posting my stuff late days all the time so that people wouldn't know where I was.
Yeah. If I was Squiggy, the town thief, like Ernest T. Bass was at Mayberry RFD, I'd be surfing Facebook for my buddies, man. And as soon as you rocked up to the Cracker Barrel, I'm cracking your window, and I'm gonna get your 65-inch 4K television.
Well, I'll tell you what. It's funny is when we were in Europe, Annie and I were in Germany, and we were in a really cool town called Freiburg, and we went out to eat. We were sitting there in this big restaurant, tons of people, lots of young people, lots of people. Annie says, "Hey, what do you notice is different?" I'm like, "I don't know." She said, "Not one person is on their phone in the entire restaurant. Look."
Huh.
And I looked around, there was nobody on the phone. Everywhere we went, she's like, "Look, no one's on their phone." We went to this blues bar, and they had this awesome blues singer and a blues guitarist there. Doug, it was packed wall to wall. And you know what everybody was doing? They were standing there watching them play and listening to the music. They weren't even talking, Doug. They weren't talking and weren't looking at their phones. That was in London. No one was doing anything except listening to the music and appreciating it. Then the guy, from memory, quotes a whole chapter from the book of Ezekiel as an intro to a blues song where the guy's ripping it up on his guitar and all the people are clapping and cheering. I was like,
dude, that's amazing.
What's going on here? This don't look like America here. Dude, this generation, Doug, I'll tell you what, my kids are in for a nightmare that's going to turn into a dream because that stuff is over, baby. I'm done. I'm mad.
Yeah, if you, again, to the Warriors and Wildmen subscriber and listener, you really need to watch The Creepy Line over at Amazon Prime. It will blow your mind.
Doug,
You'll feel I think after the Warriors and Wildmen subscriber finishes watching The Creepy Line, Rich, they will feel more used than Lindsay Lohan at Dennis Rodman's acid and weed party afterwards. They're gonna like, what has just
Doug
happened to me?
Let me throw this out there. We get $0.00 from Creepy Line from anybody. That Matt didn't give us anything to be on the show. It was something we were interested in, and we watched it, and it blew our freaking minds, and we thought you should know about it. That's why we're telling you to watch it, because you need to watch it, because it's information that affects you and your family. It's a big deal. We don't get anything if you watch it. We want you. We're trying to, okay, I get it. People are skeptical. Well, don't be skeptical about this. We're trying to get some information to you.
Yeah, and again, it's we've documented what Facebook's done to collapsing or trying to collapse our company. Definitely removing lots of followers, but a lot of people like, that doesn't affect me. That's just Doug, and he deserved it because he's a loudmouth asshole. And and in the meantime, they're like, oh, let's see, we have 13,000 pictures of your children. Oh, what's that in the background? Oh, it's a Tickle Me Elmo doll. I'm going to send you a Tickle Me Elmo doll advert. We're going to completely sculpt a profile around your stupid kid that programs him to buy shit, to vote for morons, and to turn America into a socialist state. And we've got him by his little short and curlies right from the crib once you started posting pictures of him. We've got a whole file,
Yep.
that's bigger than Dallas on your child now. Now, if that doesn't creep you out, then man, keep posting, man. Keep posting. Tell people where you're shopping. Tell people where you're going. Take pictures while you're there, and and hope to God you never get twisted up with the government or become a political enemy to their utopian one world wet dream. Because if that happens, then oh my God, they're going to pull all that data on you, and they're going to make your life effing miserable. And I can tell you that from experience. What do you think, buddy? Should we let them go? Think we made a point?
I'm pissed. I'm thinking about all the things I'm going to do. I'm done.
Well, the upshot of my account getting canceled at Facebook, at least going forward from October 11th, none of my shit's out there on Facebook anymore. I mean, search for me after the podcast. I don't exist, and I'm happy for that. All of it's gone. You know what? That's
what we need to do is we need to make people go to our site to listen to our podcast so they don't have to go through all this social media garbage. And if they want to find out what we have to say, come find us. Because I'm done with advertising and that they could shove that. I'm done with that crap.
Yeah, that's a good point, Rich. For the Warrior and Wildmen listener, you got to sign up for the newsletter because you're gonna see a diminishing presence of Warriors and Wildmen on Facebook. You guys love it.
Yeah, we got to go away. We got to get off Facebook.
Now, I know it's going to be tough.
We'll use our Facebook page to send them to our other page, not to anything else. But I'm done with that garbage, man.
Yeah, I know I know Google is going to be a little bit more tricky to unweave its tentacles from around our testicles and throat, but Facebook's an easy dump.
And get rid of Android. Get rid of Android and all Google apps and products that you can. Just get rid of them. Just get rid of it. Yeah. You heard Matt say that. Just get rid of it. I like Android. Okay. Well, stay stupid. No problem.
Yeah, stay invaded. And again, if you think Rich and I are bubble off level, just watch the creepy line.
I am a bubble off level, but if you don't listen to this and pay attention, whatevs, man. It's on you. Now you know.
All right, so Warriors and Wildmen listener, Rich, I'm going to wrap it with this. Subscribe to our mailer. We're cranking this bad boy officially up.
And
got a man card.
And tomorrow, on Friday, December 7th, the man cards are going to be on a flash sale, 24 hours, 50% off.
Dang. He just dropped the man card.
Boom.
Hey, Friday's December 7th. You know what happened on December 7th in 1983? What is that? Is that 35 years ago? Did I do math right?
17 and 35 years.
Yeah, 35 years ago, I got converted, man. Born again. Boom.
Awesome, man.
I know my Catholic brothers think that I have the soul of a heretic, and my evangelical brothers think that I have a mouth of a stevedore. But on December 7th, Rich, I got converted. I was lifted up out of the miry clay.
Come on.
And he set my feet upon a rock. Woo,
and it was so good that Bono sang a song about it.
He did. He was going to name it Ode to Doug, but he went with 40 instead.
Yeah, I was a heathen singing that at a U2 concert, thinking it was the greatest song ever. I was like, 40.
America.
And then when I got saved, I found out it was Psalm 40.
What?
It's like, wait, you tricked me into worshiping Jesus.
I asked this girl one time, I said, she was dating this non-Christian guy. And you know how girls get when you like, well, this your boyfriend. Like if you're a pastor and, you're supposed to help them through these years where they've got the urge to merge. They're hoping and scoping, and they, playing missionary dating. They see this unwashed guy, and so you being the loving pastor, that you're supposed to be if you're pastoring. I said, "Is he a Christian?" She goes, "Well, I think so." She goes, I shit you not, man. She goes, "He likes you too, and he's got U2 shirts."
Oh, so he's in. Okay. Forget it.
He likes U2. All right. That's the same thing as repenting and coming to faith and
following Christ.
Entering
the same.
A resurrected new life by the power of the Holy Ghost.
Bazow.
Boom. U2 shirt. U2. All right, buddy. Hey, good stuff, man. Always pleasure. Rock and roll. Hey, Ted Kaczynski's got his shack. Maybe you and Annie can move up there. Try, just north of where she grew up.
Great.
They ain't got no Google up there, man. They got grizzly bears.
No Google, just grizzlies.
And moonshine.
I think we've worn this Warriors and Wildmen out.
Now let's keep it going. See who stays with us.
I can stay here all day. I'm mad now. I'm holding back a fury.
Yeah. Hey, save it for the next podcast.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Peace out.